feeds all the information into a centralized environment where you get all of your websites in one place, tracking the time, managing the different requests from assigning to the different team members, internal collaboration, team tracking, and all of those kind of stuff.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the High Level Spotlight Sessions, where we showcase awesome marketers doing awesome marketing. Today, we are joined by Vito Peleg, who's the founder and CEO of Atarim, which is a pretty cool, just rebranded product for those that are building websites. And so thank you so much for coming on, Vito.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm personally excited to talk to Vito today because I spent years running a website design and build team. And so I can relate to a lot of the pain points that we're going to talk about today. And Vito's tool, the platform, is really going to help if you are out there building websites for clients. It's agency focused, which we always love. But first of all, I want to hear from Vito. So what got you into this? I'm assuming that you had or have an agency that built websites for clients.
Right. So yeah, I started building websites more than 20 years ago. Back in high school, playing around with GeoCities, if you remember that platform back then, and just building kind of small stuff for my skateboarding crew and bands that I was playing in at the time. Then I kind of went on a musical career for more than a decade, touring the world and being a touring musician. That's when I really got into building websites for clients, just as a way of generating some more income, literally from the back of the van, traveling around Europe and building sites from my laptop, as well as starting to deal with a lot of the problems that we're fixing right now, just collaborating with clients from afar, dealing with team members when you're not in the same room, and kind of managing the entire agency process. Then once we turned 30 and, it wasn't cool to live in a dirty van with 4 other guys anymore, we kind of put that chapter to rest. And I started growing my web agency business to a team of 12 guys here in London, in the UK. And we built this platform for us, for my agency back then. It worked like magic. So we decided to bring this to market. And now, 18 months in, we have more than 5,000 agencies and freelancers that are using the platform, more than 20,000 projects delivered through the platform. And yeah, team of 10 guys, and keeps on growing.
So let me take a stab at this, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but the platform itself is a visual collaboration tool, meaning does it work for designs too, or just live pages?
Also for design. So the way that we started this platform is through a standalone WordPress plugin that we created just for my agency. That was called WP Feedback. And that was basically a tool that you install right on the website, on the client's website. And then everyone can just place those stickers like Post-it notes right on the front end of the website, as well as on the back end, of course, to collaborate and remove a lot of the back and forth that just come from being uncertain of what the other side is talking about. Sometimes clients call the menu items buttons, and then you look for buttons for 2 hours. So all of those kind of stuff were just kind of gone when we released this thing. But as we were growing, I kind of realized that the collaboration on the website was just an underlying problem of a bigger kind of, or let's say a symptom of a much bigger problem that agencies were facing, which is basically a fragmented experience when delivering their projects. And I think this is the same thing for HighLevel, like when you guys replacing a whole bunch of different tools to create a consolidated experience for the marketing aspect of it, right? So we're doing the same for the build and the support after, and that's where the agency dashboard came into play. And now what started as a plugin has just become the client interface, and it feeds all the information into a centralized environment where you get all of your websites in one place, tracking the time, managing the different requests from assigning to the different team members, internal collaboration, team tracking, and all of those kind of stuff.
Very cool. So again, to sort of break this down, if you're not currently providing website projects for your clients, when you do start, the projects can really go off the rails pretty quickly, right? So you design something you think is great based on the information you got from them. You send it over and you're like, let us know if you want any changes, right? And then that just becomes this splattering, I would say, of emails coming in left and right, maybe text messages like, and you're saying you're getting feedback about buttons. You're looking for buttons. Meanwhile, they're talking about the navigation, right? And so everyone's confused. And now you send something back and they're like, are you not paying attention? I told you the buttons. And you're like, what do you mean? We changed the buttons and it's a mess. And then the other thing is you start to get feedback. Oh, I showed it to the lady who cuts my hair and her idea was this. And it's like, what's going on here? So it can become a mess. And so you quickly realize, all right, we need to create a process around this, rounds of feedback, and we need a way to get feedback, let's say a better way to get feedback. And so what this does is when you send a client a link to something, they can actually click on it visually, right? So if they're talking about the nav, they just click the nav. They don't need to know how to describe the nav. And then they can type their feedback, right? And then that comes through to you on the back end. Yep. So that in itself is really valuable. I can speak from experience when it comes to getting specific feedback. There's no miscommunication anymore because you know exactly what they're talking about. But it's interesting, Vito, that you guys are taking it beyond that because it's a bigger world than just the feedback, right? So a big challenge with website projects is, well, how do you charge? How many rounds of revisions do you permit? And what constitutes a round of revisions? Is it changing one thing on a button, or is it 10 things as long as you send them together? And a lot of it usually boils back down to, well, it's just time, right? How long did it take us to make the changes that you requested? And so it's very interesting that you're building in time tracking and all of this, because it is all part of one thing, right? The feedback comes in and it might not come all together. Yeah. They might look at it for 5 minutes now, and then tomorrow morning you wake up and there's new comments. And so how is that? It's hard to say that, oh, that's one round of feedback, So time tracking is very interesting.
Yeah, and we're tackling this from an even broader point of view than just the feedback, just the revision rounds, which is where usually you identify a lot of the scope creep, and you identify a lot of those, exactly like you're saying. You're just not on the same page, literally, right? But only that when clients look at a website, they see a completely different things compared to when we look at a website. We basically, after a few years of doing this, we see the matrix, right? You don't look at it and see a web page. You see the color schemes, you see the layouts, you see the orientations of the different things, the padding, the box shadows, and all of those kind of stuff that are literally transparent for the client's eyes. And then in most cases, we just drop them into the website and expect them to really know what to do. And that creates a lot of those back and forth and a lot of the friction that gets client to just a lot of times just kind of give up, and just say like, all right, I'm gonna face this later because I have a million other things burning in my business, and then projects get delayed, and the whole thing becomes like scratching gum. So our approach is to take the whole thing literally from the beginning. So even like there are main three problems when it comes to delivering projects or running a web agency. The biggest one is gathering content, actually. And that is a process that in most cases is done with blank Google Docs, right? You send the client onto a blank Google Doc and you expect them to, again, know what to do. To us, it seems very obvious, but to them, it's a huge and daunting task to just like, where do I even start? Or some agencies even overcomplicate this by sending like spreadsheets with, this is the H1 and the H3s, and here I need the body. But we forget that we can envision what we're trying to convey or what we're trying to communicate to the other side. They have no idea, no context, and no visual representation for a visual product that we're trying to deliver, a visual service that we're trying to deliver. So from the beginning of gathering the content, we're getting them onto their own website instead of, again, sending them to Dropbox, Google Docs, and a whole bunch of, and setting up Zoom calls to tell them, why didn't you do it, right? And so everything is consolidated on their website, what they paid for, encouraging them to actually interact with the product itself. And then it basically allows them to slide the project from one stage to another instead of manually take it. So right now you take it from Google Docs and Dropbox during the gathering content stage, you get that done, and then you send them wireframes or mock-ups that you did in XD. So with like images inside emails that they're looking at it and they say like, now what? So that we also solved that problem through graphic collaboration using the exact same mechanism for the client. So our methodology says that we need to keep the complications to us, the agency, if any. So we're also tackling a lot of the complications for the agency, but for the client, it needs to be super straightforward and to make sure that they're using just the one simple mechanism that is so intuitive that it's hard to get it wrong from the beginning of the project when gathering content through the revisions process, as well as going well into the support and care plans after the build to get that clarity. And when they leave this request, we generate an automated screenshot, we gather the screen size, the browser version, all is sent over to the centralized environment to allow you to see all of the requests in a centralized inbox, if you will. Again, if you're comparing this to email, instead of getting one request from this guy, another request from another client, 3 requests from a third client. So all day long, our attention as agency owners and freelancers is also fragmented and just kind of like being being pushed around between different tools, different websites, different logins. So the whole thing is just like super simplified to create a flow of the project instead of just manually moved.
That's really interesting. And I love hearing somebody talk about it from the agency perspective. Again, I can relate so much, and I can recall projects where, you'd send the homepage for approval and it would get approved right away. And then you'd send the next one and it would be approved. And then you'd go build it out. And then all of a sudden you think you're ready to launch and we would get feedback like, I hate this. And it's like, what do you mean you hate it? You approved like you approved everything. But you're right. When it's too frustrating, they'll just say whatever because they don't have the time to actually really dig into it if you make it too difficult.
What you're describing is also comes from the point of not taking the client through a natural learning curve throughout the project. Because we're bouncing them around between different tools, they just want to get it out of the way, because again, they're business owners like us. They have a bunch of other stuff, team members that are sick, and the baby is crying in the background, right? And all of those kind of stuff, especially nowadays. So they just want to get things out of the way, and then they're not satisfied with the result because they didn't go through this rabbit hole throughout the project. We're just kind of like throwing them into the deep end instead of allowing them to experience every stage properly. So that's why like a lot of our onboarding and for our users, we invest a lot into training them not only on how to use the tool, but how to be a project manager, how to get the clients to really understand what needs to happen at every stage from their point of view, with swipe files that we provide, and wireframing templates and all of those kind of stuff to basically train a technician, because we're all technicians when we get into the game. We're designers, developers. We're rarely project managers starting a web agency, right? Sure. But then we're expected to be project managers and to know communications and collaborations with other people. And we just want to build websites, basically.
Yeah, for sure.
So we're trying to consume that problem also through training mostly.
That's really interesting. And it looks like, so you're also, I'm just looking at the website. So you're also going into project management, actually. So we've got I don't want to say Trello boards because I was never a big Trello fan, but what do they call that? Kanban? No, not Kanban.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that Kanban? So, okay, cool. So as the feedback comes in, it actually becomes actionable items within a project management system that's in the backend as well.
And again, this is around the idea of trying to consolidate the build, because usually what happens now is that you would get the request, like you said, on email or WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger or on a phone call. And then you would go to Asana or Trello or Basecamp, list the item in there, go over to Slack, send a message to the team member that they need to look into Asana to take the task from there, log into the website, and it's a whole huge mess. While right here, when the client leaves the request, they tell you the urgency of the task, which more than really stating the urgency of it, it allows you to know the emotional state of the client when they're requesting something. Because they sometimes they think that everything is critical when we know it's not, but at least they believe it's critical. So automatically it's being built into visual Kanban boards so that the agency owner can literally look at the project from a visual aspect of a visual overview and see what needs doing. Of course, drag and drop the whole thing. But then when the team member is assigned to the different tasks, or even better, you assign different websites to different users so they can take the tasks on their own, click one button, logs them in automatically, and takes them to right where the task is, along with that automated screenshot. And when they are done, they just move a slider in there or tick a checkbox to mark this as complete. That moves this automatically inside those Kanban boards, triggers a message directly to the client. So a lot of those back and forth and redundant work, I always like to think about this like my life as an agency owner was very little about design and more about like one of those call center ladies from the 50s. You patch things up all day long, move things around, and it's crazy. So we just took that entire process and automated it completely, like what they did to call center ladies. You never see ladies go like that anymore. It's all
right.
fully.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Wow, that's great. Well, so I was most excited, and I wasn't aware of this until we started talking before we hit record. So obviously, you guys are deeply integrated with WordPress. You started as a WordPress plugin, and you're going to move into some deep integrations with platforms like Shopify and Wix. But I was excited to hear that you're also rolling out a script that gives you sort of, would you say, a lightweight version of everything that you do? Talk to me about what the script will do and why, and most importantly, why I'm excited is you'll be able to use it on a WordPress or a HighLevel site. You can take the script, you could drop it in, and then use the functionality of this collaboration, building websites in HighLevel, which we've been doing way more of lately. I see people doing it. We're excited because it's such a great alternative for really basic sites, I would say. So we see a lot of people offering it a stack of options, right? And it's like, hey, if you just need a quick setup site, we've got it like pre-built in HighLevel. Or if you want to do like a fully customized site, we can build that out in WordPress or Shopify or whatever you'd like. So talk to me about the script and what it'll do.
So basically everything. We started as the WordPress plugin. So everything was built into all the PHP files, and all of those kind of functions were built into just a zip file, that you install on the client's website, and everything runs from there. But with this new transition, the agency dashboard, it allows us to move all of these files over to our side and run them, first of all, on a much faster capacity through APIs and with React and stuff that we didn't use when we first launched the plugin as an MVP, if you will. Some of the things that we can do within WordPress that we haven't figured out how to do through a script is just the deep database integration. So for example, with WordPress, we have the one-click login that creates a temporary secure token that talks between the platforms and kills itself after a certain amount of time, so no one can really access the sites after. But that means that we need to be integrated into the users tables and to make sure that we can actually access through there. Another cool thing within WordPress that probably won't be on the other side is the one click to push to the media folder. So for example, when a client uploads a resource, so if we compare this to what people do right now, you would get the client to log into Dropbox, drop the file inside Dropbox, and then you would go into Dropbox, download the file to your computer, go to TinyPNG or some of those minification tools, import to Photoshop or something, save to web, download again to your computer, only then log into the websites to upload the file in there. So again, we just automated the whole thing. As soon as the client uploads the image, it's automatically minified, and with the click of a button, it pushes this into the media folder. So these are stuff that we can do only with deeper integrations, like what we're planning on Shopify and some of those other CMS. The script probably won't be able to do that because it's like an overlaying layer on the
Sure.
website itself. But other than that, the functionality, the automated screenshots, gathering screen size, browser version, feeding everything into the centralized agency dashboard, all is in.
Very cool. And what's the ETA on that? Do you have an ETA when the script will be ready?
Yes. So over the past month, we were dealing with releasing this, which is a huge undertaking. I'm sure Chase, that a rebrand on its own is a massive undertaking. And version 2.0, which is coming tomorrow morning,
Oh,
which
nice.
is gonna upgrade a lot of the client interface stuff as well, rely a lot more on the APIs. So we're kind of taking it one step at a time and releasing things in stages so that we can make sure that we're not breaking any of the thousands of websites that are already running through there. So I would say 2-3 months tops, and we're going to have it as a script as well. But one of the exciting parts with 2.0 is that all of the comments, all of the tasks, nothing is stored on WordPress anymore, which is definitely the biggest chunk that we had to take out, or the biggest project to kind of complete. So everything is already going to be running through APIs, which means that the script is definitely next.
So let me ask you one last question that's sort of unrelated, but I think would benefit our community in general. You mentioned that you guys are just coming out of a rebrand. You used to be called, what was it? WP Feedback, right?
Yeah.
And I'm envisioning at some point you're like, well, we could take this beyond WordPress. Shoot.
And beyond.
What kind of advice would you give looking back when it comes to planning your name? We're empowering people to become their own SaaS providers. And I talk to this, people ask me this all the time. What should I name it? And should I name it after my industry, or should I name it something more broad? And I'm always like, I don't know. It's completely up to you. What would you say, knowing what you just went through?
So first of all, I think that it's always a journey, and when we first started the product, we didn't plan for it to be where it is right now, and we're evolving with our users and with the needs of the business itself. So I think that actually WP Feedback served us very well to get started. Having what I call like a literal name allows people to straight away kind of like get that light bulb with like, oh, that's what these guys do. But now that we have a client base in the thousands, and there is already awareness out there, it actually started restricting us from a lot of our goals and the vision. And even from our own users, it restricted them from seeing what the tool can really accomplish for them if they look at the entire suite of features. So I don't regret it. I don't regret starting with WP Feedback. I never shy away from hard work. So this is what we had to do to evolve it to this. Atarim basically means websites in Hebrew. The next stage, which is my native language, the next stage was basically to try and get more generic name, like IKEA or Asana or something like that, that will allow people that will allow us to evolve without the name restricting us. So that was the thing. But also from a point of positioning, when we were trying to be positioned as a WordPress plugin, WP Feedback was perfect, right? But now that we want to be perceived as an alternative for Basecamp, Asana, Zendesk, Intercom, and all of those kind of tools, they all have these kind of fancy, meaningless names, or probably they mean something to the founder, like this name means something to me. But eventually the name becomes the company. So when people think of Atarim, they would think of our product in the same way that you don't know what IKEA means, but it's so clear what it means, right? Or even I come from the
Mhm.
music world. Pink Floyd doesn't mean anything, right? Or Led Zeppelin.
Right.
So that's kind of my mindset around this.
Cool. Well, so it sounds like the initial benefits outweighed the pain of the rebrand.
Yeah, I would definitely say that it definitely served us well trying to break into a market being completely unknown, a brand new product in the space.
All right, awesome. And so I heard that you mentioned that you actually have a gift for the HighLevel community who may be watching and interested in signing up with Atarim.
Yes, so not only that we're going to be saving you a lot of the time and the headaches and basically increasing the profitability, our users are seeing up to 80% decrease of their time delivering projects from the usual, which is like 6 to 8 weeks, down to 10 days. A standard 3 weeks project, our users are doing in 3 days. So the coupon is just to help you guys make that decision, but the ROI is huge even compared to what we're showing here. And yeah, just go on to the checkout and type in HighLevel Rocks, and it's going to give you a nice discount to get you on board and implementing fast.
Oh man, we really appreciate that. Awesome. Well, if you're watching and you are providing websites to clients and you don't have a good system around it, I would definitely suggest that you check out Atarim. The link will be below. And again, Vito, thanks so much for coming on.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Chase.
We'll have to bring you back when the script is ready.
Yeah, I'll be here.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you in the next episode.